The Ossetians or Ossetes are an Iranian ethnic group of the Caucasus Mountains, indigenous to the region known as Ossetia. They speak Ossetic, an Iranian language of the eastern branch of the Indo-European languages family, with most also fluent in Russian as a second language. The Ossetians are mostly Eastern Orthodox Christian, with a Muslim minority. The Ossetians mostly populate Ossetia, which is politically divided between North Ossetia Alania in Russia, and South Ossetia, which since the 2008 South Ossetia War has been de facto independent from Georgia. Etymology. The Ossetians in Ossetia received their name from the Russians, who adopted the Georgian designations Osi and Osseta, used since the Middle Ages for the Iranian-speaking population of the Central Caucasus and probably based on the Old Alan self-designation as the Ossetians lacked any single inclusive name for themselves in their native language. These terms were accepted by the Ossetians themselves already before their integration into the Russian Empire. This practice was put into question by the new Ossetian nationalism in the early 1990s, when the dispute between the Ossetian subgroups of digorän and irættæ over the status of the digorän dialect made the Ossetian intellectuals search for a new inclusive ethnic name. This, combined with the effects of the Georgian-Ossetian conflict, led to the popularization of Alania, the name of the medieval Sarmatian confederation, to which the Ossetians traced their origin, and inclusion of this name into the official republican title of North Ossetia in 1994. Subgroups. Iron in the east and south form a larger group of Ossetians. Irans are divided into several subgroups. Alaghirs, Kurtats, Tagors, Kuda, Tuel, Erstuel, Chsan, Kuda, the southern group of Ossetians, Tuel in the central part of Ossetia, Chsan in the east of South Ossetia, digorän in the west. Digors live in Digoræ district, Araf district and in some settlements in Kabardino-Balkaria and Mozdok district. Digors in Digoræ district are Christian, while those living in Araf district are Muslim. They speak Digoræ dialect, an archaic form of the Ossetian language. Culture. Mythology. The folk beliefs of the Ossetian people are rooted in their Sarmatian origin and Christian religion, with the pagan gods transcending into Christian saints. The Nachtsaga serves the basic pagan mythology of the region. Music history. Prehistory. The Ossetians descend from the Alans, a Sarmatian tribe. About AD 200 the Alans were the only branch of the Sarmatians to keep their culture in the face of a Gothic invasion, and the Alans remaining built up a great kingdom between the Don and the Volga. According to Kuhn, the races of Europe, between AD 350 and 374, the Huns destroyed the Alan kingdom, and a few survive to this day in the Caucasus as the Ossetes. Middle Ages. In the 8th century a consolidated Alan kingdom, referred to in sources of the period as Alania, emerged in the northern Caucasus Mountains, roughly in the location of the latter-day Circassia and the modern North Ossetia Alania. At its height, Alania was a centralized monarchy with a strong military force and benefited from the Silk Road. Forced out of their medieval homeland during Mongol rule, Alans migrated towards and over the Caucasus Mountains, where they subsequently would form three ethnographical groups: the Iron, Digorän, and Kuda. The Jassic people were a group that migrated in the 13th century to Hungary. Modern history and recent history. The Ossetians participated in Ossetian-Ingush conflict and Georgian-Ossetian conflicts and in the 2008 South Ossetia War between Georgia and Russia. Key events. 1774, the Iranian Afsharid dynasty starts to disintegrate. North Ossetia becomes part of the Russian Empire. 1801, following the Treaty of Georgisk and the abjuring of Georgia from Persian suzerainty, the modern-day South Ossetia territory becomes part of the Russian Empire, along with Georgia. 1922, Ossetia is divided into two parts. North Ossetia remains a part of Russian SFSR. South Ossetia remains a part of Georgian SSR. The 20th of September 1990 Independent Republic of South Ossetia. The republic remained unrecognized, yet it detached itself from Georgia de facto. In the last years of the Soviet Union, ethnic tensions between Ossetians and Georgians in Georgia's former autonomous oblast of South Ossetia and between Ossetians in the Ingushian North Ossetia evolved into violent clashes that left several hundreds dead and wounded and created a large tide of refugees on both sides of the border. Language. The Ossetian language belongs to the Iranian branch of the Indo-European language family. Ossetian is divided into two main dialect groups: Ionian in North and South Ossetia and Digoræan of Western North Ossetia. There are some subdialects in those two, like Twalian, Alagirian, Kazanian, etc. The Ionian dialect is the most widely spoken. Ossetian is among the remnants of the Sino-Sarmatian dialect group, which was once spoken across Central Asia. Other surviving languages closely related to Ossetian are Yagnobi, Pashto and Pamiri languages, all spoken more than 2,000 kilometers to the east in Afghanistan, northwest in Pakistan and some parts of Tajikistan. Religion. The Alans were partially Christianized by Byzantine missionaries in the beginning of the 10th century. Most of the Ossetians became Eastern Orthodox Christians in the 12th–13th centuries under the influence of Georgia. As the time went by, Digoræ in the west came under Kabbadian and Islamic influence. It was through the Kabbadē that Islam was introduced into the region in the 17th century. Ossetia became part of the Russian Empire in 1774, which strengthened Orthodox Christianity considerably by sending missionaries there from the Russian Orthodox Church. However, most of the missionaries chosen were churchmen from Christian Orthodox communities living in Georgia rather than from Russia, so as to avoid being seen by the Ossetians as too intrusive. Today, the majority of Ossetians, both from North and South Ossetia, follow Eastern Orthodoxy, although there is a Muslim minority in the north. Ossetian ethnic religion is still widespread among Ossetians, with rich ritual traditions, sacrificing animals, holy shrines, non-Christian saints, etc. In accordance with the research service Strada, there is the highest percentage of followers in North Ossetia among all regions of Russia, while the research ignores the ethnicity of people participated in the polls. There are temples, known as Kuvandin, in most of the villages. Sagdin is the Ossetian ethnic religion, emerging since the 1980s. Livelihood. The northern Ossetians export lumber and cultivate various crops, mainly corn. The southern Ossetians are chiefly pastoral, herding sheep, goats, and cattle. Traditional manufactured products include leather goods, fur caps, daggers, and metalware. Demographics. The vast majority of Ossetians live in Russia. North Ossetia Alania 445,300, Moscow 10,500, Kabardino-Balkaria 9,800, Stavropol Krai 7,700, Krasnodar Krai 4,100, Karachay-Cherkessia 3,200, St. Petersburg 2,800, Rostov Oblast 2,600, Moscow Oblast 2,400. Second largest population of Ossetians is in South Ossetia. There is a significant number living in north-central Georgia. A large Ossetian diaspora lives in Turkey, and Ossetians have also settled in Belgium, France, Sweden, Syria, the USA, Canada, Australia and other countries all around the world. Genetics. The Ossetians are a unique ethnic group of the Caucasus, being the only people found on both the north and south slopes of the mountain, also speaking an Indo-European language surrounded by Caucasian ethno-linguistic groups. The Y haplogroup data indicate that North Ossetians are more similar to other North Caucasian groups. and South Ossetians are more similar to other South Caucasian groups than to each other. Also, with respect to mtDNA, Ossetians are significantly more similar to Iranian groups than to Caucasian groups. It is thus suggested that there is a common origin of Ossetians from Iran, followed by subsequent male-mediated migrations from their Caucasian neighbors. However, it is important to bear in mind that, as with other ethnic groups throughout the Caucasus, and despite the mainly Indo-European and Iranic roots of the Ossetians, their genetic makeup is otherwise still relatively heterogeneous as a result of extensive intermarriage with other ethnic groups in the region. In the medieval, Imperial Russian, Soviet and contemporary periods it has been and is common to find Christian Orthodox Ossetian intermarriage with Georgians, Russians, Armenians, and Pontic Greeks, and Muslim Ossetian intermarriage with Meskhetian Turks, Kabydes, Ingushers, Chechens, and other Muslim communities of especially the North Caucasus. Gallery. Ossetian woman in traditional clothes, early years of the 20th century. Ossetian women working. Ossetian Northern Caucasia dress of the 18th century, Ramanov Vano. 3 Ossetian teachers. Kostika Tagorov. Ossetian girl 1883. South Ossetian performers. Ruslan Karov, professional kickboxer. Vladimir Gabulov, Ossetian goalkeeper. Geta Gazdanov, émigré writer. Veronika Dudarova, symphony conductor. Bibliography. Nasib Tarayal, mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosome variation in the Caucasus, Annals of Human Genetics, Volume 68, page 205, May 2004. Nasib Tarayal, Genetic Evidence Concerning the Origins of South and North Ossetians.